You lie back on a damp straw mattress, somewhere near the Nile's edge, as the last embers of sunset flicker across ancient mud-brick walls. You are a farmer in Old Kingdom Egypt. Around 1200 BCE, the late afternoon air presses warm and sticky against your skin. The faint grunts of pigs drift from their pens, and a low, distant murmur of the river lulls the farmland into a slow sigh. Your feet, caked with Nile mud, carry you to your simple reed-woven hut. With each step, you feel the weight of today's toil settle into your bones. Your family, two partners who ploughed fields beside you, forging canals in the halting lights, stand at the doorway. Their eyes are heavy with expectation. Will tonight's meal fill bellies? Or will the flood waters have washed away another season's worth of grain? In the fading light, you settle near the straw pile at the hut's center. It smells of hay, dampened by the soil, with the lingering sharpness of dried cow dung, scent you've come to recognize as the aroma of home. The Nile has been generous this year, but floods have no sense of fairness. You carry hope in the same hands that carry water from the river. As darkness deepens, the sky blossoms with stars, pinpricks of light in a vault of deep blue velvet. You hear crickets trilling in rhythm, their song soothing like a lullaby. Here, beneath the shadow of the pyramids, everyday life is nothing like the grand temples or royal processions. No, your days are filled with mud and sweat, and the hope thin and brittle of enough to eat tomorrow. Night deepens. A gentle breeze rustles the reeds overhead, carrying with it the distant smell of fresh water and papyrus. Your shoulders slump. Against the hut's wall, you watch the small glow of embers in the hearth, imagining tomorrow's sunrise. You will rise before dawn's light, carry jugs of water, haul baskets of grain, row the plough. You might joke with your partner, look at you out here carrying sacks like a pack animal, dreaming of pyramids. But the Pharaoh's stone giants stand far away, unmoved on, uncaring of your daily struggle. You close your eyes for a moment and let your breath slow, the day's weariness settling in like a soft, heavy blanket, the kind that wraps you tighter. With each passing second, dust motes drift through the hearth's orange glow, dancing in the quiet. Your back, sore from field labors, eases a little as you sink deeper into the straw. You listen to the croaking of frogs by the river bank, punctuated by the low, delighted murmur of nighttime insects. Their chorus is steady, sleepy, and invitation. You feel your eyelids growing heavy. You are bodily present, but your mind is already drifting across fields of ripened grain, past towering obelisks, into a dreamscape built on the slow rhythms of rivers and seasons. Despite the mild irony in your thoughts, you, a mud-smudged farmer, a tiny cog in a massive civilization, you feel a strange kind of pride. For without you, without your back bent over that plough, there could be no grand temples, no carved statues, no stories for pharaohs to tell. Your silent labor carries civilization onward. In a coaxing, patient tide. Sleep approaches, soft and subtle as the last light of embers fades, and the night sounds build into a lullaby. Your breath and the earth's breathing seem to sink. You feel gently pulled into dark shapes, into slow currents of memory and dream. Let go, drift.
You wake before the sun, not because you want to, but because the world leaves you little choice. The stars are still out quiet, indifferent companions to your early routine. You sit up slowly, rubbing sleep from your eyes with hands still aching. From yesterday, around you, the small hut breathes in the darkness. The air is cool, for now, and laced with the earthy scent of clay walls, burnt ash, goat milk gone sour, and the unchanging perfume of wet soil. The fire has long gone out. You stir the ashes with a stick and blow gently, coaxing yesterday's coals to life. You squint against the smoke, blinking rapidly as your eyes water. There's nothing noble in this process, only persistence. You're not the hero of a myth. You're the one who lights the cooking fire, so someone else doesn't go hungry. A small pot waits beside the hearth. You pour in millet and a bit of water, just enough to make something that technically counts as breakfast. The pot wobbles slightly as it heats, and you stare at it as if watching water boil might bend time. The millet smells faintly toasted. You take a cautious taste. It's bland, of course, but that's the idea. You eat to fill, not to delight. Out of the corner of your eye, you notice movement. A goat scratches its side against the doorframe, and you sigh. You'll need to fetch more feed later. One of the children stirs, rolling over in the straw, still tangled in dreams of, who knows, not plowing, hopefully. Let them stay there a little longer. Unburdened by the weight of river silt and tax collectors, you rise, dusting crumbs off. Your tunica, loosely woven thing that was white once, long ago. It smells of everything you've ever done in it. You step outside. The village is just waking, too. A few other farmers, your neighbors, your rivals, your only witnesses, are stretching, coughing, spitting, preparing to face another day identical to the one before it. The air buzzes with the tiny beginnings of life. Frogs hopping toward shelter, chickens rustling beneath overturned baskets, someone sharpening a hoe with a stone that's seen more wear than wisdom. You shoulder to clay jars and head toward the river. This, too, is ritual. The path to the water is uneven, a narrow stretch where your feet find every familiar rock and rut without looking. A donkey trudges ahead of you, burdened with bundles of reeds. Its tail flicks half-heartedly at a swarm of flies that have nowhere else to be. You nod at the donkey's owner, a woman whose name you don't know, but whose posture tells the same story as yours. Bent shoulders, downward eyes, upward hope. At the riverbank, the mud is soft and deceptive. One wrong step, and you'll be up to your knees in it, which has happened before. You squat low, filling the first jar. The water is cloudy, silt-stirred, and you know better than to drink it straight, but it will do for cooking, cleaning, and splashing on your face when the heat rises high enough to make you question every decision you've ever made, including being born. Balancing both jars across your shoulders, you begin the trek home. The pots sway slightly, their weight pulling against your spine. You find a rhythm in your walk. Step, shift, breathe, step, shift, breathe, like a slow chant, like prayer, like penance. Back at the hut, the sun finally peeks over the horizon. It's golden and beautiful, of course, but you've seen enough sunrises to know that beauty doesn't make the work any easier. You pour the water into a reed basin, rinse your hands, splash some onto your face. It's bracing, enough to wake you, not enough to refresh you. Someone calls your name, your partner, already at the edge of the field. You pick up the hoe leaning by the doorway, feel the familiar shape in your grip. Your palms are rough. This handle has known them so long, it fits like part of your hand. Today, it's the irrigation ditches that need clearing. Silt has clogged them again, as it always does. The Nile giveth, and the Nile also gives. Extra work. You trudge toward the field. The soil underfoot is damp, the kind of sticky that threatens to steal your sandals. You don't wear them. It's easier this way. Bent low, you begin scraping the ditch with your hoe. You are not alone. Dozens of others dot the landscape, bending, lifting, swearing under their breath in languages you all share without ever needing to study. These are the sounds of ancient agriculture grunts, sighs, and the occasional groan of someone who stood up too fast and remembered too late they're not 17 anymore. The sun climbs higher. The ditch is clear. Slowly, you sweat. Your arms ache. Your back protests. The mud clings to everything, including your thoughts. You find yourself wondering how the scribes, those neat, clever men with their ink and their papyrus, would describe this moment. Perhaps they wouldn't. Perhaps they'd just note that the fields were serviced and the ditches ran smoothly, thanks to unnamed laborers, people like you, who make history while being written out of it. Still, you carry on. One ditch becomes two, 2 becomes 4. Time stretches, there are no clocks, only shadows shifting across your field of vision, and the slow but certain certainty that lunch is still hours away. By midday, the air turns heavy, the clay earth bakes beneath your feet. You squint toward the distant edge of the village, where children run, goats wander, and someone's dog has decided to chase nothing at all. You allow yourself a break, just a moment, and sit on an overturned bucket. Your muscles throb with a dull familiarity. The pain isn't sharp. It's just there, like the Nile, like the taxes, like the sun. You accept it, you breathe, and for a moment, even with dust in your nose and sweat down your back, you feel calm, not happy, not proud, just still. Then someone calls out. The break is over. The ditch awaits.
You lift your hoe again. There's no drama to it. No musical crescendo. Just the slow, deliberate motion of scraping mud from stone. Another inch cleared. Another moment passed. Time for you moves like the river, slow, brown, and only noticeable when it starts carrying things away. By now the sun is full. Above it doesn't shine. It presses. Heavy and unrelenting, it pours heat down upon your head like an accusation. The air grows thick. Your tunic clings to you like wet paper. Your skin prickles under the weight of it all. And yet, you keep working. You push the hoe into the muck and feel it give reluctantly. The canal trench yawns wider by centimeters, just wide enough to carry a little more water to the far end of the barley field. The same barley that will be ground into flour, the same flour that will make a coarse, slightly sour bread, the same bread you will chew on in the evening, as your jaw clicks softly in the silence of exhaustion. Behind you, a child, probably 6 or 7, drops a basket of weeds and sighs. You don't turn around. You know that sigh. You've made it. You still do, every day. In fact, though perhaps now more quietly, like a habit that no longer needs to be heard. A few meters away, a manure cousin, or maybe someone who shares a name with your cousin, drinks from a gourd and pours the last few drops over his head. You envy him, but not for long. The gourd's empty now. Around you, the field buzzes not with life, but with discomfort. Biting flies dance in the air. Like they're mocking you. Somewhere nearby, someone curses as a stone snaps their hoe. The rhythm breaks, but only for a moment, then resumes, always resumes. Eventually, it's time to move the grain cart. It's not glamorous, this cart, just a simple wooden frame with 2 heavy wheels that like to get stuck in things, mud, roots. Your patience, you brace your shoulder against it. Wood creaks, something inside your spine creaks too, but you choose to ignore that dot. You push, the wheels resist, you dig your heels into the soil and push again. You think of all the stories people will one day tell of ancient Egypt, the pyramids, the gods, the rivers of gold. No one will write about you pushing this cart, straining under its load, swearing softly under your breath as a splinter lodges itself in your hand. And yet, this is the real story. Grain, mud, sweat, repeat. You glance at the wheels. One is missing a spoke. You should fix it. You won't. You'll remember later, after the work is done, when the tools are far away and your arms have turned to porridge. The field ends in a shaded grove of date palms. You stop there briefly. Your reward, not shade exactly, more like less sun, but it's something. You sit down on a rock that's never been comfortable, but at least it's familiar. You take out the bread your partner packed for you. It's rough, dense, the kind of bread that doesn't yield so much as resent being bitten. But it's food. You chew it slowly, because that makes it last longer. You sip from your own gourd. The water is warm. Of course it is. The heat has had hours to crawl in. As you eat, you watch a heron pick its way through the reeds at the edge of the irrigation canal. It looks elegant, smooth, graceful, everything you are not. In this moment, you wonder, briefly, what it would be like to live as that bird. No taxes, no carts, no hoes. Just fishing and the wind. But you know better. The heron, too, must eat. It must search and wait, and sometimes come up empty. Even dreams have responsibilities. Lunch ends, you stand. Your knees crackle in protest. You tell yourself it's normal, that it means you're alive, that everyone's knees make that sound. You lie to yourself very gently. There's still more to do. The sun isn't even near setting yet. The cart must reach the village. The grain must be stored, weighed, taxed, redistributed. So you grab the rope tied to the yoke, wrap it around your chest, and begin dragging. The path to the village isn't long, just inconvenient, slightly uphill, slightly rocky, slightly the worst thing imaginable. As you drag the cart, a boy runs past you, barefoot and laughing, as if gravity doesn't apply to him. You remember being that fast, that light, that unburdened. You try to recall what changed. When did walking become work? When did rest start hurting more than movement? The village appears like it always does, suddenly, then all at once. Clay huts arranged in no real order, a goat tied to a post, a dog too lazy to bark, a woman washing clothes by slapping them against a rock with a kind of violence reserved for only the closest of relationships. You reach the grain depot. A sunburnt man with the expression of a spoiled onion takes your cart and begins counting the sacks. 1, 2, 3 each, one a record of how much of your back went into it. He doesn't thank you, he doesn't even look at you, really. Just nods, like a bureaucrat noting rainfall. You step back, not sure whether to feel accomplished or emptied. You lean against the wall, grateful for even vertical support, and then a little voice in your head whispers, "You still have to walk home." You sigh, not loudly. No point in wasting energy on the noise. Your feet begin the familiar journey back, each step heavier than the last. The day has taken its share of you. Your shirt is stained with mud, sweat, and the accidental memory of a dropped millet cake. From earlier in the week, you've earned nothing, really. Not gold, not praise. Maybe a bowl of warm mash and the soft snore of a sleeping goat beside your bed. But even that is something. The sky begins to change color. A pinkish tinge smudges the horizon. It will be dark soon. You've made it through another day, just barely.
You arrive at the threshing yard just as the sun begins to sink behind the palms. It's not a dramatic arrival, no fanfare, just your feet, tired and calloused, crunching over chaff-strewn ground. You blink dust from your eyes as someone shouts softly, but still too loudly for this time of day. It's your cousin's son, or your neighbor's apprentice, or both. It's hard to remember, and harder to care. The threshing floor is open to the sky, a dusty circle ringed with flat stones and bent backs. You spot the oxen, 2 of them plodding in a lazy loop around the center, dragging a wooden sled spiked with stones to crush the husks. Each step stirs a small, joyless cloud of dust. The air is thick with it, dry and sweet and sharp, like someone ground up a loaf of bread and decided to inhale it directly. You grab a wide palm fiber fan and step in to join the rhythm. The fan is rough in your hands, woven hastily, edges frayed. You raise it high and sweep downward, casting husks to the side and coaxing kernels into the center. It's not elegant, it's not efficient, but it's what you've always done, and it sort of works. Eventually, with time, like everything else in your life, around you, the others do the same. No one speaks. Words have no place here. Just the steady shishi of fans, the plodding hooves, the rasp of sled-on-husk. The sun, now red and low, watches dispassionately. You adjust your stance, and fan again. Grain shifts, dust floats. Your nose itches, but you ignore it. You're past the point of caring. The only goal is separation, kernels from husk, food from waste, effort from futility. At least one of those will happen tonight. You pause for a moment and rub your eyes. Behind your lids, flashes of movement remain. Even when you close your eyes, the oxen still circle. The dust still drifts. You're not really here to harvest grain. You're here to become part of the processed one, slow-moving component in an ancient machine built from sweat and obligation. You are a living fan, a walking tool, a creature of dust and habit. Someone hands you a fresh bundle of stalks. You drop them onto the threshing floor. The oxen pass again. You fan again. The chaff flutters like brittle butterflies. Beautiful, if you squint, not that you have time to admire it. The work goes on until twilight, until the air cools slightly, and the light fades to gray. Eventually, someone calls the evening's end. You're not sure who has that authority. Maybe it's agreed upon telepathically, by the creak of knees and the heaviness in shoulders. You gather the grain into baskets, coarse, shallow woven vessels that scratch at your arms as you carry them. The grain is warm, like it remembers the sun. A woman nearby hums a tune as she lifts her basket. It's not a cheerful tune. It's more like a lullaby for someone too tired to sleep. You don't know the words. You don't need to. The baskets are carried to the grinding hut, a small, roofed place built for knees and hands, not for comfort. Inside, the floor is already coated in flour. You feel it between your toes, cool and soft and somehow more personal than you'd like. You kneel. In front of you, a saddle quern, a flat stone slab, and a rounded grinding stone, ancient, familiar. You place a handful of barley between them and begin to grind, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is not glamorous work. It doesn't require strength, only repetition, infinite, grain dusting, spine cramping, repetition. The stone makes a low, gritty noise with each stroke, like the sigh of an old man trying to stand, like the whisper of time smoothing away all things sharp. Your hands grow white with flour. Your knees press against the earth. Your back curves forward, slowly. You don't notice. You never notice. Posture becomes irrelevant here. Form is just whatever shape your body takes after doing the same motion 3,000 times in one evening. You work in near silence, broken only by the occasional clink of stone against stone. It's meditative, in a way. Peaceful, if you forget you're doing it because your family needs something to eat tomorrow. The flour smells warm and bitter. It sticks to your nose. You inhale the past, ground up and sifted through generations. Eventually, your partner joins you. No words, just a glance. They sit beside you and take up another quern. You both grind, side by side. It's not romantic, it's rhythm. And in this rhythm, there is connection. Back and forth, back and forth. Outside, the stars appear one by one. You watch them through the open doorway. Their light is older than your tools, older than the gods you mumbled to, older than the Nile, even. You think about that, about how you're grinding grain beneath the same stars your great-grandmother saw, and her grandmother before her, and hers before that. A line of bent backs, all moving in quiet loops beneath an indifferent sky. Eventually, your basket fills. Not entirely, not dramatically, just enough. You stretch your back and stand, blinking dust from your eyelashes. The world feels a little hazy now, as if your day has been filtered through a fine mesh sieve. You carry the flour home, one basket at a time. Your hut waits, small and familiar, with smoke curling gently from the roof hole. Inside, someone has lit the hearth. The smell of boiling lentils drifts into the night. Your child sits curled beside the fire, drawing patterns in the ash with a stick. They look up as you enter. Their smile is small, tired, real. You set down the basket and sit. You did it. Another day, not heroic, not remembered, just done. And that, for now, is enough. The fire crackles softly. It's not a roaring fire. It never is. Just a small, smoky flame fed with palm fronds and bits of broken pottery. Whatever burns without complaint. You sit close to it, cross-legged on the packed earth floor, your joints sighing with relief as you settle. The heat touches your face and your knees, and nowhere else. The rest of the hut remains cool and dim. Your partner ladles thick lentil stew from the blackened clay pot hanging above the coals. It plops into a wide, shallow dish, more paste than soup, with a consistency that defies description but holds together like affection in a long marriage. They hand it to you without ceremony. You nod your thanks, too tired to speak. You both know the words. They're always the same. Beside the stew sits a small loaf of barley bread, flat, uneven, hard at the edges. Its scent is slightly sour, slightly comforting. It's dense enough to double as a tool or a weapon, but you tear a piece from it and dip it into the lentils anyway. You chew slowly. There's grit in it. Always a little grit. A faint crunch of sand between your molars. You pretend it's seasoning. You've gotten used to it. You imagine, somewhere, there are people who eat food that isn't full of sand. People in painted temples with polished bowls and soft napkins. But you've never met them, and they've certainly never met you. Across the fire, your partner eats in silence too. Your child hums to themselves, swinging their legs and blowing gently on a spoonful that's far too hot. They'll burn their tongue anyway, and you'll act surprised. And the night will carry on just as it always does. Above you, the roof is a patchwork of reeds, tied together by hands older than yours. There are gaps. You can see a few stars through them, blinking lazily like they're not quite ready to be bright yet. A breeze whispers through the walls. It smells of smoke, dust, and the river. It smells like home. You finish your meal and set the dish aside. Your belly isn't full, but it isn't empty either. It's satisfied in the way that working people's bellies always are, grateful, modest, and already thinking about tomorrow. Your partner tosses another stick into the fire. It hisses, spits, then settles. You lean back on your hands and close your eyes. Just for a moment, not to sleep, not yet, just to listen. You hear the low murmur of your neighbor's voice through the wall, something about goats, or taxes, or dreams. You hear the rhythmic thump of a distant mortar, someone grinding late into the evening. You hear the low breath of your child as they fall asleep mid-sentence, their body curled like a bean against the wall. There is peace in this, not the dramatic kind, not the kind sung by poets or carved into monuments, just the simple, dusty, quiet kind that settles into a hut at the end of a long day when no one has died, and no one has gone hungry, and the fire still burns. Your partner begins to hum a song, soft and slow. You don't recognize the tune, but it feels familiar in your bones. A lullaby, maybe, or something their own mother used to sing while shaping loaves by moonlight. You lie down on your mat, a bundle of straw, and read that tries its best. The familiar lumps greet you like old friends. One pokes at your rib, another nestles against your shoulder blade, like it belongs there. You exhale. Your partner lies beside you. The fire dims. You stare at the ceiling again. A tiny spider makes its way across a reed beam above your head. You watch its delicate legs, its steady crawl. It has a job, weaving something small, something unnoticed, something necessary. Don't you let your eyelids fall. The air grows still. The fire pops quietly. Ash drifts upward in lazy spirals. Your body relaxes into the straw as if becoming part of the floor. You think, for a moment, about the great things people say Egypt will be remembered for. The pyramids, the pharaohs, the gods carved in stone. But none of that is here, in your hut, in your bowl, in your hands. None of that will remember your name. And yet, the grain doesn't harvest itself. The fields don't water themselves. The bread doesn't rise on its own. You, in your silence, have built more than you will ever see. The wind shifts. The reed walls creak. You pull a coarse linen cloth over your shoulders, rough and comforting. Your partner is already asleep. There, breathing steady, your child snores faintly, a little whistle through their nose. You are warm. You are tired. You are safe, at least for tonight, and tomorrow. Well, it will look very much like today, and that, oddly enough, is comforting. You drift. Your thoughts soften. The fire becomes a glow. The wind becomes a hush. Sleep approaches again, slow, like the Nile. You don't fight it. You never do. You're not sure when you drifted off. It might have been right after the fire gave its last sigh. Or maybe it was the weight of the day, pressing gently against your chest like a sleeping cat. Either way, you're somewhere else. No, not quite asleep, not quite awake. The kind of place where your breath slows, and your thoughts float like driftwood on a lazy river. Outside, the village has gone quiet. Even the dogs are done pretending to guard things. The frogs murmur softly in the reeds, and insects flicker in and out of existence with the subtle power of stars too small to notice. You lie on your straw mat. The air's still, your body heavy and warm, but your mind begins to wander. You remember what your grandmother told you years ago, as she shaped dough under the moon. That night is not simply the absence of light, it's the time when things walk, not people, not animals, other things, the kind that live in shadows, in walls, in dreams. She had a name for them. Everyone's grandmother does. You've forgotten the proper words, but you remember the feeling they carried, those hunched, whispering spirits that skulk through cracks in the plaster or hide in the thatch, peering down as you sleep. They never quite do anything, but they're always almost doing something. You glance at the wall. Nothing, of course, but still. You remember the old rule, never sleep with your feet pointing directly at the door. That's how the dead find you, or how you invite something in. You shift slightly, pulling your knees closer to your chest, just in case. Not because you believe, just tradition. A pot cracks somewhere outside. It's probably just the night air cooling the clay, but your eyes snap open all the same. There was a time when your ancestors believed every broken pot was an omen. Too dry. The gods were angry. Too many frogs in the canal. A sign. Crows flying west at dusk. Prepare for disease. Dreaming of a crocodile. Better sleep with a knife under your mat. That one you still follow, though not because you think a crocodile will slither into your dreams. No more, because it gives you something to hold on to, a little edge of reality in a night too deep to trust. You roll onto your back and stare up. Through a gap in the roof, a few stars blink at you. You wonder, briefly, if the gods live up there, watching you like ants beneath glass, or if they'd grown bored and moved on to other civilizations. Ones with temples and gold, and a little more dramatic lighting. You hope they're still around, just in case. A soft breeze drifts through the doorway. It carries the smell of dust and date palms, and a distant fire, and something else. Faint, familiar. The scent of your mother's hair when she bent over you after a fever. The smell of river mud in spring, just after the flood. A childhood memory, stirred loose by the wind. It makes you ache a little, though you're not sure for what. Beside you, your partner murmurs something in their sleep. A half word, a name maybe, or the end of a complaint. You close your eyes again. You begin to dream. In your dream, the Nile is not a river, but a long black serpent, winding between stars. You float upon it, in a reed boat the size of a breadbasket. It rocks gently, too gently. The current carries you without sound. You pass temples with no walls, only columns holding up nothing. You pass statues with no faces, just blank stone and open arms. Somewhere in the distance, a woman sings. You think she might be the moon, or maybe just someone doing laundry at an impossible hour. Your boat drifts into a cave, where the walls are carved with hieroglyphs that rearrange themselves the longer you look at them. One moment, they say your harvest will be blessed. The next, hide your children from the jackal. You blink. The cave is gone. You're back in the village. But it's not quite your village. Everything is ... tilted too tall, too narrow. The clay huts stretch upward like necks, and the palms droop like weeping women. The air smells of old bread and wax. You walk through it, barefoot, hearing your steps echo like they belong to someone else. You see familiar faces, but they don't recognize you. Or maybe they do, and they've just chosen not to acknowledge you, which honestly is worse. You try to speak, but your mouth is full of flour. It drifts from your lips in little puffs as you attempt to form words. Then a voice.low.com, ancient. It says, you have done enough for today, and you believe it. The dream begins to unravel. The village peels away. The stars blink closed. Your breath slows. The fear lifts like mist in morning sun. You are just a person again, in a hut, on a mat, with tired hands and a full belly, and a life so quiet that the gods forgot to write it down. You turn over in your sleep. A moth flutters across the fire's last ember. its wings casting shadows against the far wall. Outside, the reeds rustle, the frogs resume their chorus, and somewhere far off, a jackal calls once, then falls silent. You do not wake, there is no danger, only night, and it is long, and slow, and kind. You are dreaming again, but this time, you are wearing linen that isn't patched. That's how you know it's a dream. Your hair is trimmed, your fingers stained faintly with black ink. You wake not on a mat of straw, but on a slightly raised, stone platform covered with a woven cloth. Fancy, or at least, less itchy. You are a scribe now, which sounds impressive, until you remember that scribes do not build temples or summon gods. They do not harvest fields or lift stones. They do not shape statues or lead armies. Scribes write all day about barley quotas and goose feathers, and how many jars of fermented fish paste were consumed at last month's temple festival. You rise slowly. The room is cool, thick-walled and shadowed. You stretch your arms and crack your fingerstools of your trade, slightly bent from years of cramped scribbling. A low table sits nearby, waiting patiently, already covered in scrolls and palettes. Ink cakes have dried into the ceramic wells overnight. You'll need to add water and stir again. You do this without thinking, with the same weary reverence one might offer to brushing their teeth or milking a particularly stubborn goat. You pick up your brush. The reed tip is frayed, soft from yesterday's use. You make a mental note to trim it later. You won't. Your first task of the morning is thrilling. Record the inventory of temple grain from the eastern granary. You dip your brush. You begin to write. 4th month of the season of inundation. Account of barley received. Western Field Division. Overseer, Intef, Subdivision, Lower Bank. Total sacks, 211. You pause. Is it 211 or 213? You don't remember. You scratch out the number and start again, sighing so quietly that even the flies ignore it. The hieroglyphs flow from your brush in neat, practiced order. Beautiful, if you weren't numb to them. You used to admire them. Once little birds, eyes, snakes, and baskets that once held magic. But now you know, they mostly just hold complaints, receipts, and extremely detailed lists of who borrowed what from whom, and whether it was returned in acceptable condition. Someone knocks softly on the wooden frame of your doorway. You look up. It's the temple runner, barefoot, as always. He bows slightly and says, "The high priest requests the land survey records from last planting season." Of course he does. You nod. You do not sigh. This time, though your soul quietly deflates, you rummage through the clay jars, scroll baskets, and bundled palm fronds stacked in the corner. You mutter to yourself as you pull open string ties and unroll document after document. Your writing from months ago stares back at Usland. It rushed, full of corrections. You mentally criticize your past self. Sloppy, lazy, no respect for margins. Finally, you find it. Planting totals. Southern Fields. Overseer, Bax region. You brush off the dust with your sleeve and hand it to the runner. He thanks you. You do not thank him back. He leaves. You return to your table, where a small bowl of figs waits. You eat one without tasting it. Sweet, slightly fermented. You chew slowly, pretending it's important. Mid-morning arrives, and with it, the priest. He doesn't greet you. He simply enters and begins speaking as though you were already listening. "We'll need a copy of the offering schedule for the festival of Sakhmet," he says. "The one from 2 years ago. The one with the corrected beer allocation." Of course, you nod and begin searching again. Your fingers now stained with dust and disappointment. You find the scroll. You read it over. You begin copying. Day 1. Bread 6 loaves, onions 3 bundles, beer 9 jars, incense 1 cone, closing parenthesis. Day 2. Beer 10 jars. Bread 7 loaves, goat 1, unblemished. Day 3. Beer 11 jars. More bread, a cucumber. For some reason, you copied the words carefully, slowly, lovingly, not because you care about the cucumber, but because mistakes require recopying entire scrolls. You learned that the hard way during the festival of Thoth, when you spelled the god's name with an extra bird, glyph, and caused minor spiritual confusion among the older priests. So now you go slowly. The papyrus crinkles as it dries. You weight it with a smooth stone to keep the corners flat. Lunch is brought in a bowl of lentils and stale bread. You eat while continuing to write, crumbs gathering silently between the gods' names. Outside, the temple bells chime. Not for you, probably for something divine and mysterious, or someone just dropped a jar. You don't check. Afternoon arrives like wet clay warm, sticky, and full of obligation. You're tasked with reviewing tax receipts for the Western Canal villages. Dozens of them, each with seals, names, fields measured in cubits, payment dates, grain weights. You dream of walking into the river and letting the scrolls float away from you, gently, like autumn leaves. Instead, you dip your brush again. The ink, at least, is obedient. You write until your wrist tingles, until your vision blurs slightly, until the light from the small window turns from gold to gray. Only then do you stop. You set your brush down, roll the last scroll, and tie it with thin twine. You lean back and breathe. Your legs are stiff. Your neck aches. You stretch slightly and listen to your joints pop like tiny amphorae under pressure. You did it. Another day of writing things no one will remember, in a room no one visits, for gods who never answer. And still, you feel proud, a very quiet, very bureaucratic pride. Your work is not glorious, but it is permanent. Somewhere, 3,000 years from now, someone might unearth this scroll and whisper, "Ah, so that's how many jars of beer they needed for the cucumber day." You stand, you stretch, and you leave the room in darkness. You step out of the temple just as the sun begins to retreat behind the date palms. The stone under your feet is still warm, but the air has changed. Softer now, less urgent, the kind of air that exhales, that lets you loosen your shoulders. A bit, Das says, quietly. You survived another day. You roll your ink-stained sleeves and walk slowly across the courtyard. You pass a priest whispering to a statue of Bastet, who does not answer. You pass a young boy sweeping sand off of stone, in what appears to be a heroic but hopeless effort. You nod to him. He nods back. The temple gate yawns open like a tired mouth. You step through it, and the light changes again. Outside, the village hums with end-of-day sounds. Nothing dramatic, just the gentle scrape of broom against ground, the rustle of palm leaves in the breeze, a donkey sighing as it's finally unhitched from a cart. Somewhere, someone is laughing, not loudly, but with that sleepy kind of laughter that people earn after doing everything they had to do, and not one bit more. You walk home slowly. Your feet know the path by now. You could close your eyes and find your way just by the feel of the earth, the slightly smoother stones near the mill, the uneven patch by the basket weaver's wall, the dip near the well where water always gathers, no matter how many times someone insists it won't. You pass old women sorting lentils, young men fixing a fishing net, mostly for show, children playing a game that makes no sense to you, but clearly involves a lot of yelling and sudden rule changes. No one calls your name, not because you're forgotten, but because you're already part of the background. You reach your door. You enter without knocking. No one knocks. The smell of the fire greets you first, smoke and onions and something faintly sweet. The kind of smell that attaches itself to your clothes and stays with you until morning. Your partner is stirring something in a clay pot. They look up and offer you a tired smile. You give one back, equally tired, equally genuine. You sit there, ladle food into a shallow bowl and hand it to you. It's not much, just grain porridge, slightly burnt at the bottom, with 2 pieces of dried fig, trying their best to look generous. You eat slowly, thoughtfully, as if this meal, though humble, is sacred, not because it is, exactly, but because everything you eat at the end of a long day feels like the first and last good thing in the world. Your child is drawing in the dirt with a stick, tracing shapes you think might be hieroglyphs or just lazy spirals. You ask what they're making. They say, a map. A map of what? You ask. They think for a moment. Here, they say. You nod. That seems right. You finish your bowl and set it aside. There's a breeze now, cooler than before. It slips through the doorway and dances with the fire smoke. You close your eyes for a moment and breathe it in. Somewhere, a neighbor coughs. Someone else laughs. A goat sneezes. You are surrounded by the quiet orchestra of people simply existing. No monuments, no miracles, just lives, folding into each other like layers of linen. You lean back against the wall and look. At the ceiling, the reed roof creaks softly. A beetle clicks along one of the support beams. You wonder if it's the same beetle from last night. You wonder if it dreams. The light dims. Everything turns bronze, then gray, then something softer. You light a small oil lamp and place it near the doorway. not for brightness, just so the house can remember that it is still occupied, that someone is still awake. You think, briefly, about the temple again, about the scrolls and the ink and the priest's voice, always 2 steps ahead of your patients. And then you think about this, the sound of water boiling, the roughness of your partner's hand brushing yours, your child humming a nonsense song, while pretending the stick is a boat. You think about how these things will never be carved into stone, but they are still what hold the world together. You close your eyes, you remember your grandmother again, her voice like papyrus, dry, soft, always about to fall apart if you listened too hard. She used to say, history is just the stuff people forgot to throw away. And here you are, living in it, a forgotten name, in a remembered world. You drift a little, your partner nudges you. Lie down, they murmur. You do. The mat is rough, the cloth itches, but it is yours. And the sky, seen through the thatch, is full of stars pretending not to look at you. You breathe in, you breathe out, you let go of the day, piece by piece. You are underground now, you don't remember how you got here. That's the nature of dreams. One moment, you're curled on your mat, the next, you're inside the rock, candlelight flickering across your fingers, with a chisel pressed into your palm like it's always been there. You are a tomb worker now, not an architect, not an overseer, just a carver of someone else's forever. The air is dry, warm, tired. It smells of dust that has never known sunlight, dust so fine it has settled into your hair, your eyebrows, the spaces between your teeth. You stopped noticing the taste days ago, or maybe months. The walls around you are smooth, freshly scraped. A faint curve tells you this is a burial chamber. Not yours, of course. Someone important, someone rich, someone who will lie here for all time, while your own bones are someday folded into anonymous dirt. You chisel anyway, tapping lightly, gently. Your task today is a falcon, Horus, to be exact. You'd been working on him for 4 days, and all you've finished is the eye. It watches you without blinking. You position the chisel again, tap, tap. The sound is soft, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of stone. Around you, others do the same. You can hear them further down the tunnel. Hammer and chisel, a steady percussion played for no audience. The stone is the only thing that listens. Your partner, not the one from your village, but the man assigned to your section, clears his throat. Too sharp, he says. You glance at the falcon's beak. He's right. You mutter thanks, and file it down slightly. Perfection matters when you're carving for eternity, or at least when you're being watched by a foreman who believes the gods personally. Inspect your brushstrokes. You return to work. Tap, scrape, wreathe, repeat, UF. Think about the man this tomb is for. Some official with a long title and short temper. Probably you've seen the painting of him on the wall, already half finished, sitting stiffly on a throne, one hand raised, the other gripping a crook he never used. His face is stern. He looks constipated. Most of them do. The artists always make them look like gods. You wonder if anyone ever painted someone laughing. Probably not. You adjust your angle. Your legs are stiff. Your back aches in that familiar, not quite broken way. You shift your weight and keep going. You don't think about the next hour, or the next room, or the decades it will take to finish this place. You only think about the next line, the next curve, the next grain of stone. That's how it's done, one line at a time. You pause to sip water from a clay jar. It's warm, slightly gritty, still better than nothing. A beetle scuttles past your foot and disappears into a crack. You envy its freedom, just a little. Break time, someone mutters, but it's not a suggestion. It's just a phrase people say. No, one actually stops. The work is too slow for that. You look down the corridor and catch a glimpse of sunlight, just a slice, where someone's cracked the dust door open to fetch supplies. The beam lands on a patch of floor where someone spilled pigment weeks ago. Red ochre, still there, still bright, like a wound that never dried. You stare at it too long, then blink and return to your falcon. Tap, scrape, tap. You make the wing curve just so, a tiny motion. But when it catches the light later, it'll look like it's about to lift. You allow yourself the smallest nod. The falcon approves. Your partner leans over. Nice, he says. That's high praise here. You keep going. At some point you lose track of time entirely. The candle stub has burned halfway down. The walls are golden from soot and oil, and your fingers feel like they're made of something older than flesh. You finish the last detail. You lean back. The falcon is done. No one claps. No one cheers. You simply pick up your tools and move on to the next wall. Another God. Another name. Another eternity you will carve and never see fulfilled. Still, you find comfort in it. The permanence, the idea that your hands, which have blistered and bled and ached and mended, might leave behind something that outlasts the Pharaoh himself. That even if your own name is never etched in plaster, your line will live in the way a shadow curves beneath a chisel mark, in the way the morning light someday hits the eye of a falcon, deep underground, and makes it gleam. And that's enough. You stretch your fingers, someone hands you a fresh candle, someone else hums a song. You think it might be the same tune your mother used to sing while threading fish on a skewer. You don't hum back, but you let it carry you anyway. You are waking now, not suddenly, but slowly, like dawn stretching its pale fingers through a cracked window. Your body remembers the dust of the tomb, the weight of the temple ink, the chill of the straw mat under your skin. But your mind is slipping, floating, hovering between the worlds you've walked. You are both nowhere and everywhere. A farmer trudging through muddy fields, a scribe with ink-stained fingers, a worker carving stone in endless twilight. Each life felt solid, real, but now they dissolve. Like mist. You breathe in, you breathe out. The sound of the past becomes quieter. The dust settles. Your limbs grow heavy. You feel the slow settling of your thoughts, the kind that says, it's okay to rest. You remember the small things, the taste of figs, the sound of children laughing, the roughness of stone against skin. You realize that these little moments soften dull, often overlooked are what truly stitched the fabric of history. No monuments built in a day, no stories told in an instant, just the slow, steady heartbeat of everyday life, a grain of sand at a time. You hear the soft rustle of a linen tunic, the distant clink of pottery, a whisper almost inaudible careen, a secret between the walls of time. You are no one, you are everyone, the quiet echo of forgotten names, whispered like prayers in the dark. You lie down again, your body sinks into the softness of your bed. You feel the familiar itch of worn cloth, the faint smell of earth and fire, and something sweet you can't quite place. You close your eyes, and now the world blurs. Your breath slows, your heartbeat fades. The last thing you hear is the gentle crackle of a flame, and then nothing. Just the soft, endless hum of sleep. Thank you for wandering these dusty roads with me. May your own days or bright be filled with quiet magic, and may your sleep carry you gently, like the slow turning of ancient scrolls in the night. Good night.